I mean, so was that meant to do that before? But our journey started with a conversation. Like literally, we were going to a different school in the same conference. Like we were being recruited by Murray School, and I
Hmm.
didn't know much about Sidwell at all. And somebody kind of said to me, "Well, you need to meet this guy, Eric Singletary. Like you need to talk to this guy." And so, in having that conversation, we talked for an hour that first call, and I knew what I was looking for in a coach for my child. But what do you look for when you first meet a family or meet a kid? Like, what are you looking for to see if this is a possible person that might be a part of your program?
Well, certainly it depends on how old they are, right? Like as far as my evaluation of them as a basketball player, but I'm certainly looking for a kid that has, good court awareness, who's uber competitive, great teammate. I mean, just the way he carries himself. I'm looking for those things. But honestly, like it takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to see that. So the rest of the game, I'm looking at the parents' behavior, kind of looking how they react to, are they really supportive of the team? Are they sitting around the gym like in their own little silos, only cheering for their kid? So I do try to, do a process of elimination a lot of times because we can't take many kids at Sidwell. So I always try to make sure that to the best of my ability that we get it right. And we want to get it right with families who believe in growth, who believe in development, and also who believe in like, giving their kids an opportunity to step outside themselves and figure out something new.
Yeah. You brought up a point in terms of, and I hope everybody heard what he said. He said it takes 5 minutes on the basketball court to find out if you're the type of player he's looking for. Let me say it again. It takes 5 minutes of watching you hoop to see if you can play this game. We've been we've been watching this for a long. I know when I see a third grader, I know I've seen that before, so I know where this
Mhm.
person can go. I know it. It doesn't take me that long. But what you heard him say was everything else is about the type of person that you are. And a lot of people miss this every time because you're like, man, my son is cooking out here. He's got all kinds. He's outscoring kids. How do you take a kid that only scored 5 points when my son got 20 points? Well, because that kid's a better teammate than you.
Right.
That kid's gonna work harder than you. Like that kid's a better prospect than you. I want y'all to understand every coach that's looking at you is looking at you as a prospect. They don't care if you got 20 points in fourth grade or eighth grade because they're not going to do that when you go up to the next level. So what can you do on the rest of this stuff? I hope y'all really heard, even to the point where he said how you sit in the gym after the game. I need y'all to understand how competitive it is to be a part of these really good programs.
Mhm.
Everybody can hoop. These coaches, whether they're high school coaches or college coaches, they are looking for people that fit in their program more than anything else. And those are all the intangibles. So please make sure you heard that. I really hope you did because that's a big part of how to get to the next level. And that's something that's a family value, your culture, all that stuff that happens right from home. And the last part he said was the first thing he said was, I'm looking to see how the parents are acting. I said this before, parents, don't ruin your child's opportunity. Don't go through all of this stuff, driving all around the country, going, spending all this money, going to all these games, to when the moment your child's about to get a offer, you stand up and say some dumb stuff in the gym. You start arguing with your coach. You start telling people that don't, if you do that, I'm telling you, you're going to waste a whole bunch of time and a whole bunch of opportunity. So
Mhm.
please make sure you heard that. All right. Eric, anyone you want to add any parts to that? Because I know you and I agree very strongly on that part.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just think at the end of the day, like, I always tell people, I make this little joke that when people try to tell me how good their kid is, especially as a middle schooler, and I'm like, well, he don't even have a girlfriend yet. Like, how do we know how good he's going to be? Like, he hasn't been distracted. So like, I really am doing a lot of evaluation of the family. A tough family who believes in discipline and who believes in a vision for their kid for the future. I mean, I want you to be uber supportive. We partner with you. It's not like you're just giving them to me and like I want you sitting on your hands and getting out of the way. But I do want a family who understands that you don't come to Sidwell to play sports. We just happen to be really good at basketball, but like if you're not coming for the a transformative life experience and bringing everything that you have there, all your gifts, which may be different than basketball. You may have many more gifts. I think what I see a lot is people pigeonhole themselves into like this one little space and like they don't really tap into some of the other gifts that they have. And I like to believe that Sidwell is a place where you can kind of really discover yourself as a student athlete. So, we're definitely looking for those kind of families to continue to so once again lose with and do more winning.
Absolutely. And by the way, if you think of a question, we're gonna have a Q&A towards the end. If you think of your question and you don't want to forget, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll just make sure we hit it if it's coming up while we're talking. So please feel free to do that. Um, let's talk a little bit about, we have parents on the call, we have, these young people on the call. What are some of the biggest, I think, misconceptions that people think about what it takes to be successful, whether it's in high school, whatever, especially in the DMV? What are some of the misconceptions that I think some people might have carrying up as some of these parents are brand new kind of to this journey?
Right. Um, I think like it's the misconceptions are actually hard to get away from. I think human nature is a part of everything that we do, and the DMV is so robust, and the amount of good players. Like, we're as coaches, we're really fortunate to be able to pick from so many great players, and I'm sure there's a ton of them on the Zoom right now. So it's kind of hard to kind of keep your blinders on and not see everything around you and try to compare. And I always say comparisons can be odious. So you really need to have a plan for your kid. That's one thing I can say about you, Kyle. Like, you had a plan, you stuck to it. And certainly I don't want anybody on this call to believe that Kyle and I would say 95, but not maybe 99% harmonious, but we've had our times where we kind of disagree with one another and, like brothers, talked it out. But like, I always believe great things come through conflict. So at the end of the day, I'd rather you be straightforward with me than like be a person who's subversive inside and like you're whispering these things to like other people and like, that's how you ruin a culture. But I think that it's really hard to be a young, really good player in the DMV in the sense of like all the people that's around you and all the social media and all that stuff. So how do you turn that off? I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you can't turn it off, it's your job and your duty to kind of manage it in a way that still makes sense for the future success that you're trying to have. And I think also realizing that like, all the rewards happen later. So I see a lot of young people on here. Just enjoy the journey right now. Like you're just starting, right? You're just starting, develop a work ethic, develop a sense of how to, really take information in and process it fast. Learn to be a student of the game, learn to be somebody who's extremely coachable, but also really competitive. But I say like, you're just at the beginning. So like all the rankings and all the other stuff none of that matters. Like none of it matters. All the great stuff that comes with this sport actually happens later. So if you want it now, you may get it, but it doesn't mean it's going to be sustainable.
Yeah. And I think, and you mentioned work ethic. I think a lot of people think this is about talent, right? They think, it's about, I'm 6'8", I can go left, I can, like all these different talents. But I think you've seen, and I've seen enough where there's a lot of talented kids that if you don't have the work ethic, it doesn't work out for you. It just doesn't. I even use a Caden Lewis. I mean, everybody knows the Caden, but he kind of came out of nowhere to be one of the top recruited kids in the history of the DMV. Like he has offers and done things that not very many people have done. But a Caden was on the bench, would take over in the sixth and seventh grade. He was a
Mm-hmm.
forgotten piece. He was little, he was scrawny, and
Cut.
he just started working. A Caden works out. I promise you, I don't care who's on this call, none of y'all can finish one of a Caden's workouts. Couldn't even finish it. I promise you couldn't even finish it. I don't care if you're an adult, you couldn't finish one of his workouts.
Yes.
He just
Yes.
works people, right? And so I want to ask you, like, in terms of like the work ethic, putting in the work and academically and athletically, because you even yourself had to go through some work. You can even add that part if you want, but the work of what it takes to be successful, I think people underestimate the amount of work that it takes to really reach their goals academically and athletically. Talk about that.
Oh, oh, absolutely, Kyle. I mean, I think that's why I keep talking about discovery. Like I really discovered myself at Sidwell. I was a straight A student in public school, K through 8. And then when I got to Sidwell, man, I struggled big time and even had to stay what you guys call reclassing now. We kind of jazz the word up and make it more positive. I stayed back. And that hurt me big time. Like, I cried like a baby. But just the type of work ethic that I had to like put in to become the student that I always was, but like you just had to learn some new skills and like, I always thought homework and studying were the same things. So I didn't know like how to really work. And so like once I got to Sidwell, like it really taught me how to work and be competitive in the classroom, which also was a carryover on the court. Like I was a pretty talented player. But I started just realizing that I can outwork other people and win those tiebreakers. Like I always tell players, like it's okay to run out of talent. You just don't want to lose the tiebreakers that are right in front of us every day. Like making a team to me shouldn't be that hard to do because most kids aren't even talking. So at least if you talk the most, then you probably make the team. So that's one of the things I always tell people, like putting a team together is like putting a puzzle together. I think Vince Lombardi has one of the best quotes ever when he says, I never play the 11 best players. I play the best 11.
Mm.
And so we're trying to put a puzzle together. So sometimes, like Kyle said there earlier, there's many people that may say, well, I'm better than this kid and I did more. But like you don't fit the puzzle of what we're doing as a collective unit. That's more important to me. But like, yeah, work ethic, I can't tell you, if you're serious about hooping, I would say 85 to 90% of your life and your pie chart needs to be dedicated to all those things that's going to help you be more successful as a student, athlete, and then you'd have little time left for other things outside of your family. So it's good to learn that now because you're going to be, the better you become as a player, you're going to get hit with more distractions as you get older and more all the trappings of success. And so can you self-deny yourself those pleasures? And, those are the guys that last. Trust me, all the guys you see in the NBA, 99% of those guys can be replaced. And so it's usually just one, some guys like KD and those guys were born to play. Everybody else has a tremendous work ethic. And not that KD does as well, but like they have tremendous work ethic. They're super hungry about what they're doing. So Cal, you're spot on with that. I think that's the separator from this age through middle school, through high school. Like you start to see kids fall off is the kids that got the best work ethic that continue on.
Yeah. And you talk about work ethic being a habit. Like it's not like I gotta go to work. I got practice now, so now I turn it on, or I got the game now, we turn it on. And you said something to me when we first met that blew my mind, and it made me think about how I'm raising my children. And you said to me, I think you might even I started with asking Jelani, how you gonna be successful every day and you don't even make up your bed.
Right.
Like and go ahead and kind of give that now. I just think it's a great way to express what work ethic and habit forming really means.
Yeah, I mean, I just think about, all of us, especially the parents over here, we know how difficult it is to be consistent in anything. And so I always tell at least young people can get started by making their bed. I was like, how do you expect to be successful at basketball that's full of failure? Like even Steph Curry, the greatest shooter that we've ever seen, shoots 44% from the field. That's an F. That's why I would say sports is the only place you can get an F and still be successful, right? So that's the beauty of sports. There's no mastery of it. But if you don't make your bed up every day, like I always tell parents, tell me something that your kid does daily, like really well. And then we can start talking about how successful they may be in sports. Like if they're not doing anything consistently to build habits and to build that discipline, then you're going to continue to have the inconsistency that already exists inside of sports. You're just going to have it more.
Yeah. And I think, and when you think about building habits, like winning is a habit. And a lot of people, and we talk a lot about winning. And I just want y'all to understand, I've said this on the last call, but the definition of winning for me, or at least what we do at Takeover Grassroots, it's what's important now. WIN. What's important now? That's how you get the win, right? And when you think about these wins, when Eric said this to me, he said, if you can wake up every morning and start your day with an absolute win. By as soon as you get out of that bed, turn around and make it up and make it look really good. That's win number one for the day. So no matter what happens the rest of the day, I started my day with a win. But if I don't even claim that win, Lord knows what's about to happen the rest of the day. And little things like that are the things that take you over the tipping point. I'm telling y'all, you're gonna be going through this game, whether it's your job, your sports, and you're gonna be like, what's gonna make this person a little bit better? Well, I've been making up my bed every single day since I was 8 years old. I'm consistent. I'm used to getting this win every day. So I wake up with a win on my mind already. That already elevates you to a new spot. So that's a great
fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact. That's a fact for sure.
Now, you've been doing a lot of winning lately, and it's opened you up to new opportunities. I'm so proud of the fact that for the last 2.5 years, we've played a national schedule at Sidwell Friends, right? Where we've gone around the country. I know this year you guys are going to Hoop Fest. To Hoop Hall Classic and City of Palms, right? First time ever, right? That was the first time we've gotten to that stage.
Absolutely.
But it's been a process, right? And sometimes you got to win 3 state championships to get invited to the Hall of Fame, right? But okay, whatever it takes. But when you think about the climb for winning, right? And when I talk about that, what's important now? What do you believe it is about Sidwell culture that you think has allowed? Like, what are the intangibles that you think about? I know you guys have the O case, our kind of guy award?
OKG, yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, about what you think you've had to build into Sidwell culture to get to the level we're at now.
Yeah, I think we preach our 3 core values on a daily basis: toughness, attitude, and intelligence, right? And those things have many arteries and veins that go out into different, factions of your life. But we think those 3 core values cover you on the court, cover you in the classroom, cover you at home. And so I think we emphasize that on a daily basis. I always say you're only as good as the stuff you emphasize. Like most of us coaches have a million things in our head that we care about. So I tried to keep it simple with those things. And I think we found the right people. Kyle keeps going back to the right families that believe. I think I'm pretty good at developing players. I think I'm pretty good with the knowledge of the game. I'm very passionate about the game. But at the end of the day, like you said, winning begets winning. Once we started doing it, I think people started buying into the culture piece as why we were winning. Nobody ever got outside of the frame of thinking that it was about them. Even myself, it's not. I have a tremendous staff that's been very consistent with me. We've had so much no turnover really in that department, so that gives stability. So I think it's just about believing in the climb. I think starting with Jelani, your son, everybody that we've coached has believed in becoming the best and knocking off everybody. And like we haven't lost that sense. I always say we are a number one company that operates like a number two. And the
Mm,
day we stop operating like a number two, we'll go back to potentially struggling again. I think that gives us our edge. I think I've always wanted to just create the edge that when we win, it's even more special because nobody's doing the amount of schoolwork that we're doing.
facts, facts. And I think there used to be a time when people thought you had to do one or the other. That these really smart schools where all the nerds are going to go is not going to be good at sports. Sidwell hangs banners in every sport in DC. Like if you go into it, when we get to Sidwell, I want you just to look around at all the banners, not just the basketball, but all the different
Mm-hmm.
sports. And what that does, it says to me, and it says to people outside, is that these kids can handle both of them. And that prepares you for life because life, you're not going to be able to focus on one thing. You got to be good
Yeah.
at everything if you want to keep moving. So I'm glad that you're able to really build that and be important with it. I want you to just talk about. Well, let me do this. Let's talk about a little bit about your program right now. Right over
Mm-hmm.
the last 3 years, you're three-time defending state champions. You do have one of the most highly recruited, probably the most highly recruited kid, definitely in this area, but really in the country. Just in case you all don't know, I know sometimes in third grade you're not thinking about high school or fifth grade, but a Caden Lewis, the starting point guard at Sidwell Friends, is down to four schools, right? We're down to four now. So four schools that
Yep.
he's going to
Yep.
choose to take his talents to. And they are Duke, UConn, Kentucky, and what's the other
North
one?
UNC.
And UNC. What they call the blue bloods, like the top of the top. He's turned down. I mean, that's the four that were left. And I said it again. Caden was a team takeover grassroots kid in the sixth grade and the seventh grade, and on the end of the bench, right? But as you're building this program and talking about it, talk a little about what this year looks like for you because it is you're going through a little bit of a transition. I will say, my son Caleb is gone, new leadership going on. But
Yeah.
talk about what you've learned in the past with these teams and what you're really preparing for this year with this team.
Man, I'm always excited about the challenge that's in front of me. Like I always say, even if all 13 kids would come back, it would be a different team. They'd be older, some guys driving, some guys get some girlfriends. And so you can never rest and think it's the same team. But I'm excited about this team. Like you mentioned it, Kyle, like this is the team where we lost Caleb Williams and his leadership and winning ways. But I think that one of the things I try to do initially is like work really hard at like, pushing them in preseason conditioning. And like what I believe is like doing my part on the front end so I can get out of the way. I'm just trying to find my way into the team. I always tell the team it's their team. I just happen to be the coach. My passion is because I can't play. One of the things I always tell you guys are like this, parents are like this. The one of the reporters asked me before one of the games, "Are you nervous before the games?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Really?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Because I can't play. If I could play, I wouldn't be nervous." I just got the best seat in the house, and so I just try to prepare them like on the front end. We work super hard with our strength and conditioning program. But I like this team. Obviously, you got one of the best players in the country who has the experience of, like you said, Kyle, being the seventh man for us too.
Yeah.
When Caden first got to Sidwell, he didn't. He came off the bench and accepted his role and always had the talent and the work ethic, but just really grew as a leader. Was voted captain by his peers, and so I know those things. The Caden that Cal and I know from a kid to what he is now, I'd love to take a little bit of credit for that. And at Sidwell in the community, taking him to a new place as a young man, not just as a player. So I'm excited about the team. I think we got a hell of a schedule in front of us. I think it's a schedule that puts us in position Win or lose those games, will still be relevant around February, March. I think we can make another run at it for sure.
What do you think will be, what's your biggest challenge as a coach? I know you always want to improve your game. With this team, what are you going to have to do better at this year to fill in the voids and fill in the gap and step your game up this year?
Probably put my arms around some guys a little bit more without losing. As your son Jelani says, Coach, you're getting soft. And I'll be like, I'm just a better coach than I used to be. But I think, like, learning how to push the buttons of like some of the younger, inexperienced players, and then leaning on the older guys to like really like, lead better than most of those guys were good players, but like you said, they can rely on Caleb, they can rely on Cam to lead. And so now, like, really pushing that leadership piece on those guys is probably where I got to make my biggest imprint. And that's probably spending more time with those guys off the court, like having lunch with them, having more talks and stuff like that to prepare them for what's ahead of them as far as from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah. When most people are looking at nationally ranked teams, and big time teams, there's usually like a hierarchy in terms of like who's going to play, who's not going to play. And one of the things that I think you do a great job of is allowing people, if they do the work, whether they're freshmen, sophomore, whatever, doing the work to get the chance to play. I want to ask you about, as you look at this team in particular, one of my favorite players of all time is now a freshman at Sidwell Friends. His name is Jada Washington. If you don't know his name, I guarantee you're going to hear about it soon. Jada Washington came to team takeover as a second grader. We weren't even having second grade tryouts. Some of the parents have reached out like, I got a first grade or second grade. And I'm like, bring them. Let's see what they look like. We weren't even supposed to be having second grade tryouts. Jada and some other folks showed up because I messed up on the flyer, and literally they became our second grade team by accident. And Jada has been with us ever since. And I remember in the second grade saying to this kid, because I fell in love with his work ethic in the first 5 minutes. Let me say it again. At the tryout, I was like, I don't know if this kid can make a basket, but he's already won every sprint. He's already walked up and asked me a question. Everything he did, I was like, I'm in. And I told his mother that day, I said, listen, I don't know where this is going to go. I was like, but I got a place for your son if you want to work this out and make this ride. And I'm highlighting him a little bit because I want to just ask you, like, you're a national program. You got one of the best point guards in the country, and you have a ninth grader coming in. Does he expect to play this year? Do you expect to have to use him this year?
Well, he better expect to play. I think once again, a Cal Williams special. I mean, like, think about, we use that word manifestation. I mean, I didn't even know that it went that far back. Cal introduced us to Jada probably 2 years before. So he was used to coming up playing with us. So we recruited him. We started looking at him as a sixth grader going into seventh grade. And so we had a long process with the family. But it's amazing that Cal had that vision back then for he and his mom and his family. And but no, this kid is he's ahead of schedule. He's competitive as they come. I mean, he's just a really dynamic player. So, like, we expect him to be like not only play but a difference maker on this team.
Absolutely. And I'm just excited about the opportunity, like I said, to see things turn and go into fruition. Like, I literally, and I didn't know. I really didn't know. I didn't know if Jada was going to get there because it takes a lot to get there. Like, you have to really work hard in the classroom, and he's traveling from Bowie to get there every day. Like, but it's an opportunity that I know can change your life. Like, literally, it's done that for my family. So, just on that note, I want to give you guys that are on this call and you families to realize that these opportunities are real. Like, the opportunity to go and end up at a great school. And I'm not, there's a lot of great schools here, and like Eric said, I've helped student athletes go to Gonzaga, DeMatha, whatever. But one of the things that I love about this is that everybody knows about the WCAC in this area. I'm from New Jersey originally. So when I got here, and I'm a perennial underdog. My basketball career ended in the 10th grade because I was 5'8". And I love the game so much, but I was like, yo, I'd rather watch. I'm gonna watch it. I'd rather sit up here with the girls in the stands than be on the side of the bench. So for me, my basketball, I love it. And when I got here, everybody was like, well, Gonzaga, DeMatha, the Paul the Six, and I, no knocking, they do great things. But for me, I was like, you know what? I kind of like these underdog schools. And when I met Eric and realized that he was actually the best coach out of everybody, I just said, you know what? If we put the talent over here, we can beat everybody else. And so the
Manifested it.
and we've done it. I mean, the number one team in the area the year before last in the Washington Post, beating Paul. I don't know do you know what your record is against the WCAC, Eric? I don't know if you count the wins and stuff, but
Yeah, it's good though. It's definitely good.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it's 70s. We probably at least 75% in terms of we don't take too many losses in the WCAC,
Yeah,
right?
you and I manifested it, Cal. Like honestly, like I remember, I'll tell a quick story, guys. I remember this was probably right before Jelani came, but I remember there was a dad who said, well, coach, it's between you and DeMatha. Why should I choose Sidwell? And we hadn't played DeMatha before this conversation. So you'll get the gist of what I'm about to say. And I said, well, Mike Jones does an incredible job over there. They have amazing tradition, but we are closer to them in basketball than they are to us in academics. And that wasn't, like I said, I was praising them, but not taking a shot at them. But I believe that. And Kyle will tell you, consequently, when Jelani and those guys came, we played them probably 7 times in a row in different venues, summer league, team camp championships, and we beat them like 7 times in a row. So I knew that was the beginning of us, the changing of the guard, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And Eric's famous line on that, he said that we're closer, yeah, we're closer to them in basketball than they are to us in academics. Like, understand when you make these choices moving forward, these are big time decisions about a lot of stuff. So I'm glad that we're able to get that. All right, I know we got about 15 minutes. I mean, I do want to share time, but I don't see any questions yet. But if you want to put your question in the chat, here I have a question just kind of take your parent hat on, right? And some of these parents are brand new, and whether they end up with team takeover or anybody's team, what's important? Well, you had a son that went through this stuff. What was important for you as a parent in terms of where you chose to place your kid when it came to youth sports and youth teams in terms of coaching and coach? Like, what should they be looking for?
Definitely looking for teaching, right? Obviously, hopefully you have the lens to be able to evaluate that. I mean, maybe you're a novice, but don't be afraid. As much as Cal knew, I also think Cal solicited other people, like ask a lot of questions. I've seen him do that as well as I've seen other families do that. So I would say be open to asking a lot of questions, learn the craft like with your son. I mean, if you played, even better. But like I would say, look for somebody who really emphasizes teaching, who really emphasizes discipline at a young age. And I think other than that, if they know the game, then the game is the game, right? There's not so many aspects of the game that's ever going to change. But I would say a lot of teaching, a lot of discipline at the youth level. I think you'll get a good product out of that. And sometimes that may not be a winning team. So that's another thing. Like, don't choose the scoreboard over your own child. You know what I mean? I've seen a lot of parents do that where, the team is winning, but your kid's not really getting any better. You know what I mean? I always say, like, if you play this game long enough, you're going to sit on somebody's bench. I'm not sure you have to do that at 10.
Yeah. And I hope everybody heard that because I said it before on the last call. As great as Caleb was, as much and Caleb had 30 Division I offers before we finally chose a school. Caleb has been with Team Takeover since second grade. He's one of there's only 2 players in Takeover history that started in second grade and went all the way to the 17s EYBL, right? Only 2 players, and Caleb was one of them. But here's the thing: Caleb was never a starter on the A team or the black team his whole Takeover career. Never a starter. He
Mm-hmm.
started his career on the B team because I wanted him to play.
Yep.
And I wanted him to have to go out there and fight hard they were going to lose. So I wanted him to go and be mad at losing. I wanted him to realize we don't get enough rebounds. So I could say, well, go get some more rebounds. I wanted him to say, we don't play defense enough. Go play some better defense. I didn't want him being the 8th dude on the best team. When he was in the 4th grade, the A
Right.
team won the national championship. All his friends won the And he was like, man, we were a Division II team, but he was hooping. When he went to the B team, I said the A team finally, he was the 8th player. So he sat next to me a lot. He had to work through that. To Eric's point is that it's just about making sure your child's in the right spot and you have the right people telling them what to do. And I love your point about sometimes parents, we do know a lot about the game. Sometimes we don't. I love when a parent walks up and says, I don't know nothing about this basketball thing. I'm gonna trust you. Let's go ahead and see what we get it done. But we have other folks that have played the game at a high level and done all those things, but never be too closed off to get some new stuff, to understand I'm handing my child over. So let me trust and learn. And if I can help, I'm going to help my son later at home, telling him to do more and work harder. All right. I see some questions coming in. So let's actually get to some of those. The first one is, what is your advice for an undersized guard? And before you answer that, I want y'all to understand how good of a guard this man is right here. So he has that Rice University jersey on. He went to Rice University, played overseas. But for me, before you answer that, I think guards are the extension of the coach. So it's about your IQ. right? And not so much even about your size, but that's a great question for this man because he's worked with small guards before, undersized guards, but he also has been a guard at a high level. So Eric, what's your answer for that? Best advice for undersized guard?
Man, you better be a tough SOB. You gotta be tough as nails. Like Kyle said, an extension of the coach. Really smart. Don't get yourself in trouble by being in the paint, picking your dribble up. Those are some of the skill stuff. But I would just say picking up full court, just being the toughest and nastiest guy on the court. Like if you're undersized, like you want to obviously work on your speed. Make that be your advantage if you're a little diminutive. So speed, quickness, intelligence, but like feistiness, though. I think competitive. You got to be the most competitive guy on the court if you're a small guard.
And I love that you said that because here's the thing: as a coach, you have when you're the smaller you are, the more your coach has to trust you, right? Meaning, I know that you don't have the height, but I know you're going to go after everything. You're going to work hard because if you're not, I could put a bigger person that doesn't even have to work as hard as you, and just because they're bigger, the game's going to be easier for them.
Right.
And here's the thing about undersized, because that's actually relative. Because somebody might say, well, I'm 5'8", I'm undersized. Yes. And pretty much all across the board, you're going to be undersized at 5'8". 5'10", you're still kind of undersized. Now, if you want to play like the Caden Lewis level, get those type of offers, a Caden's actually undersized at 6'2". Because at that level, my son Jelani was 6'5", point guard in the Ivy League. So when we talk about the size, I want you to understand that you might say, I'm gonna be 6'3". You're still undersized. And here's the thing: if you're a forward, because you haven't been working on your handle, you're really undersized now.
Right.
So I don't know how many of you all are going to be 6'8", 6'7", but I want all of y'all to realize, for the most part, you're trending to be undersized guards. So what Eric's point about being a dog, don't wait until you get your growth spurt, or don't become a dog this Sunday at Howard University by just locking in and changing that. Yeah. All right. Did that answer? I want to make sure, did that answer the question? I'm not sure who put that in there, but are we good with that? I see the thumb. Thank you. All right. What are some of the skills that you believe players should have at the 6th through 8th grade level? What's the middle school development like? We talked about, the fundamentals here, but when we get to middle school, what does that look like?
I think some of the separators that you can start seeing in middle school, it still comes back to competitiveness. I think because most people, even in the DMV, they just play so much basketball. And so the skill level is actually pretty good in middle school. But I still sometimes don't always see that kid that stands out from a competitive standpoint. But if I had to pick a skill for middle school, Cal knows he came to many of our practices. Like I emphasize at any level, but certainly you can start separating yourself in middle school if you become a really good passer of the basketball. I've always believed the older you get, if you can't pass, you can't play. And certainly defense, we don't even have to talk about how important that is. But like from a skill standpoint, I would say the ability to pass the ball. And I'm not talking about Jason Kidd, who you guys love today, would be considered a great passer. I'm not sure. But I'm just a fundamental passer that can move the ball around the court. Where, like, once again, that becomes trust. The coach ends up trusting you. So I would emphasize passing a lot.
Wait, hold on a second. You just messed some people up. Well, you just said passing. Wait. Passing the ball to other people is actually a skill that people should develop in the middle school. Is that what you just? Let me. Hey, parents, the next time you want to take your child to a trainer, ask them when we're gonna work on passing.
Yeah, no doubt. Like Cal can tell you the story about when one of my former players who went on to play at Carnegie Mellon, had a great career, said, 1,000-point scorer, Josh Hart's right-hand man, Matt Hillman. He could tell you, like, when he came home from college, and Matt was a shooter. But what did we do in that workout, Kyle?
Everything. Because that's his role. And that's his role at college now, right? And here's the crazy thing: Matt Hillman played with Josh Hart. He should have been a better passer then. Sometimes when I was watching the games, but it was something he had to work on and get better at. But y'all probably have never heard that before. Even if I'll tell you, play defense, you got to be a good dog on defense. That's my calling card. But this man, who's one of the top coaches in the country, just told you that if you want to get my attention, be a great passer, share the basketball, move the basketball. All right, good stuff. All right. What advice would you give to a kid about game time anxiety, being that mental part of the game? Talk about that. Great question, Vlad.
That means you're alive.
Mm.
It's not a bad thing. But certainly you can practice some skills on like whether that's a favorite meal that you may eat before a game if you had some success. Maybe it's a song that calms you down or something like that. But other than that, I think being nervous just means you're alive, means you're ready. But the anxiety usually comes from preparation, right? The more prepared you are, the less anxious you'll feel. That anxiety usually may be rooted in some other things. Like, are you worried about how your parents are going to
Yes.
feel about how you played or stuff like that. So usually the game is the game. Like if I just rolled the ball out there and told you guys go play a little pickup, some non-consequential basketball, then you wouldn't be anxious, right? So the only thing that creates that anxiety is like when you feel unprepared, or if you're playing for somebody else and some other things that are kind of out of your control.
Let me another bar. I talk to him all the time, so I know when he's dropping bars. Sometimes he just says stuff casually. Some of your children are anxious because of you. They don't. They love the game. They just don't love everything that comes along with it. They don't love the ride home after the game. They don't love the fact that you keep telling them they got to do more stuff when they're just trying to learn and have fun. What he said was, you're less anxious when you feel prepared. And everybody on here, we agree. Like you're at work, if I got a bit important day and I got my speech ready, I feel better. If I don't have my speech ready, I'm in trouble. We know
Right.
that about everything. What some of the pressure that parents put on 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds, they're not prepared for the pressure. They're trying to have fun. They're trying to play a game. And you're giving them something that they're not prepared for because they know they're going to miss. Steph Curry shoots 40%. So if you keep saying they keep missing, you're putting extra pressure on your child. So I hope we're going to talk a lot about this during the academy. The job of the parents is to be a cheerleader. You're not the coach. You're not the ref. You're not another teammate. Your job is to be a cheerleader. So if
Right.
you want to be lower some anxiety around your child, become their greatest cheerleader. And I promise you, what you'll see is a level of comfort come above them. And it actually leads to one of these other questions on here. Where was it? The question about how do you go from between positive talk and criticism? And Eric, that's something that's real for you because that's like you said, it's something you're working on, right? So
Mhm.
how do you make sure you're on the right side of that line?
I think constantly like reiterating the fact to the players that understanding the young mind that they may mistake my passion for anger. And so I tell them all the time that like it takes a lot for me to be angry. It's a loud gym. And so part of it is just me. That's my way to compete. That's my way of kind of trying to help you win the game. But other than that, like spend a lot of time with the players, you know what I mean? So I think at the end of the day, but in this society, we do put a lot of pressure on the deliverer, where I think your real growth arc can come if you become a better receiver. So at the end of the day, like there's certain vegetables that you guys probably don't like, but they're good for you. And so at the end of the day, like how it tastes doesn't always mean that it's not good for you. So I think developing thick skin, if you're going to be in this game, and thick skin's a life lesson, right? That has nothing to do with sports, but you can't play sports at the highest level without being challenged. The game's moving too fast. It's too fast for me to be nice, right? And so therefore, like it's your job to become a better receiver of the information. That's why I love seniors because they get to the point where they just kind of tune you out. Caleb Williams thumb up. You know what I mean? They because now they hear it. They know that I can't be the guy who they think knows a lot about basketball, who cares about them. As Cal said, some people think I'm one of the best coaches. Those things can't be true, and still you're worrying about whether my criticism somehow is personal.
Yeah. It is a trust factor. And that's why, again, I believe that, one of the things that we do at Takeover when it's possible is we want our coaches, starting at second grade, third grade, to go up with their player student athletes. Like we want it to go at least to sixth grade. I can control it to sixth grade. After that, it changes. So sometimes whether you're the coach or whether it takes time to trust each other. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to build that as well. Sometimes you only got one season, right? Other times you have time to continue to build that. So that's good. All right, here we go. My son is 8 and the tallest in the school. What are some things you can focus on to match? So you have a tall person at 8 years old, right? What should the focus be any different for in your mind about my height? How does that change what I focus on when I'm 8 years old? My height.
No, the game is the game. There's a certain rudimentary, fundamental aspect to the game that all players, and like certainly the aspect that the Europeans take on this, like we shouldn't pigeonhole the kids in any aspect. They should be learning all types of footwork, all types of shot making, layup package. I mean, like you don't have to like, be expansive, but like certainly I don't think there's a just because he's tall doesn't preclude him from like just learning the basic fundamentals of the game.
Yeah. And when you think about the way the game is going now, you got guys like Wimby who can dribble. You got guys like Cooper Flag who are 6'10". And I mean, so the height thing has really changed in the game overall. So one of the things that we don't do at Takeover is put you in the pigeonhole and say, well, you're the tallest kid in the team, you go in the middle. That's why we practice 50, five
Right.
out. Everybody's gonna have an opportunity to learn the game, to learn the flow. And hey, if you can go in there and because you're a little taller, grab some extra rebounds, then that's you and your work. Right. But in terms of learning the game, if somebody's trying to make your child a back to the basket player at 8 years old, they're setting you up for failure because if he ends up only being 6'5", he's a guard.
Right.
Right? So we got to make sure that you have that full package. And again, even the tall people now have the full package. Right. So we want to have that. All right. We're coming to the end. Can you explain playing with talent and hard work? Jake, can you? I just want to make sure I got the question right. What do you mean? What are you asking about explaining talent and hard work? Help me with that.
I'm just saying, like, what is more important, playing with talent or hard work?
Got you. Got you. Talk about the differences, Eric. Thank you for that, Jake.
Thank you, young man. Appreciate that question. Well, they're both important at a certain level, right? But at the end of the day, like talent is something that, we talk about, whether that was God given or some skills that you've worked on to get better. So I would always say like hard work, will beat talent any day. Like if the talent doesn't work hard, but if talented people work really hard, then it's going to be hard for you to beat them, right? But I think at the hallmark to answer your question, if I had to pick one, I'm always going to pick hard work because like those are the guys I want to go to war with every day who believe in that aspect. So I'm gonna definitely take hard work over the talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Absolutely. All right. All right. As we're coming to an end with this tonight, if there's any more questions, somebody wants to drop it in the chat real quick. I'll take one more if we got one. If not, we're gonna wrap. Okay, here we go. A medium-sized forward popped by. That's I love. So first of all, your size is gonna change altogether, but I love the
Yeah.
question. I'm a medium-sized forward that can shoot the ball. What should I work on? That's from my man Carter. Talk about that, Eric. What would you say if a kid who has some good size, what should they work on?
I mean, you just said it, like just a full game. Like at the end of the day, like don't have any aspect of the floor be foreign to you or off limits. If you can shoot it, then continue to shoot it, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't drive it. Shouldn't mean doesn't mean you shouldn't rebound and yeah, just develop the whole skill, of the game. Like I said, there's some basic rudimentary aspects of the game that needs to be developed, at a young age all the way through. So, and it doesn't change. Like, trust me, the pros are doing some of the same drills that Cal has you guys doing.
Yeah. This last question, I'm actually led perfectly into my answer, into what I'm getting ready to share with you guys as we leave. Ace has a question about dribbling and how we can get better. And I do want to say, no matter what your size is, the better you can handle the basketball, passing, shooting, those always make you a better player. So dribbling is like that, a foundational skill where you can cover up for a lot of your other stuff, your size, if you can handle that basketball. So I'm going to put in the chat, and everybody should grab this, and then I'll share my screen. But we actually have a way to help you because we're not going to do a whole bunch of dribbling at the academy, right? That's something you got to work on in your driveway, right?
Yes.
That's something you got to do yourself. So what we do is we put together this academy playbook for you. And we're going to add this video right here to it. Go ahead and grab that link. I haven't talked about this yet because I was going to bring it up this Sunday, but there's no reason for you to have to wait. See, we have something called 30 for 30. And it's 30 minutes of consistent work for 30 days. And they're basic dribble drills. You can look at this right here. And it's literally for 30 days. If you spend 30 days dribbling, you're going to be a better ball handler in 30 days. And if you do it again for another 30 days, you're going to be even better. And if you just make it a habit to actually work, not just when practice comes and not just when you go to your trainer, but when you're in the driveway, do your drills. So everybody's going to have this. We're going to continue just to add stuff to this. When we talk about, I'll talk about this on Sunday, but I wanted to give it to you a little earlier. So if you see some of this stuff, just get to work. You do not, I'm giving you this because you don't have to wait for me or your parents or anybody. You basically will click on this 30 for 30 challenge and just get to work. If you learn some stuff this weekend and you're like, I'm not quite sure about that shell defense, watch the video. If you learned a little bit about 50, but you're like, this is where for you student athletes and for our parents,
That's good stuff.
it's all right here. So all I want you to do is commit to doing the work, and you'll get better the whole time. All right. So as we come to an end of this call, I just want to say thank you to Eric Singletary. I think, as a literally a friend, but also a friend to the program, Eric Eric did a lot of work with Team Durant. There were years where, he was with Team Durant, part of their executive committee. It never stopped he and I from working together on making sure all these kids get better. Right. And so I just value his knowledge. I value his passion and really his experience. What he has done for my three sons is immeasurable. I literally can't thank him enough. And what I want to do and what I continue to do is expose you to people like this, because as you go through the journey, you now have a standard in front of you of what it takes and what it looks like to be a top-notch coach. So as you're moving through this game, think about what Eric Singletary said tonight. And I'm not saying that everybody's going to be at his level, but they should at least be talking about some of the same stuff. That's important. All right. We want to give you an example. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody. This will be available when we put it on the Padlet board. But Eric, man, I appreciate you. Good luck to the Quakers this year. I won't be at as many games, but I'll be at the big ones and I'll be ready to go. So we thank you.
Absolutely.
See you guys on Sunday. Just really quickly, we'll be at Howard. I sent out the information. Looking forward to an incredible day. We are flip-flopping it. So 3rd and 4th grade, you guys go first. 5th and 6th graders in the second session. Let's come ready to work. Let's get ready. Let's get busy, and let's just keep rocking with the academy. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you, and I'll see you guys on Sunday.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to
Good night. Y'all have
look
a good
forward
night.
to meeting some of you guys. Thank you. Thanks, Kyle.
Appreciate you, Eric.